Hey everyone, and welcome back. We're diving into a book today called Maximizing Genetic Investment, Enhancing the Next Generation's Potential.
Oh, yeah. This one really digs into some interesting concepts.
Right, especially if you're thinking about building a strong family and, raising kids who can really thrive even when the world feels like it's working against you.
It's a fascinating read for sure. The author blends scientific concepts with, real life stories and even historical
I was
examples.
going to say, he doesn't shy away from those big topics either.
Not at all.
Like when he gets into traditional gender roles, the importance of fathers and what he calls cultural Marxism, all that's in there.
Yeah, he really dives right in. One of the core arguments he makes is about understanding your own genetic inheritance. It's like the foundation of a house. You need that solid base to build on, right?
Makes sense.
He describes genetic recombination as a kind of genetic lottery, where traits from both parents get all shuffled together and dealt out to their kids.
Oh, I like that. I like how he uses the analogy of building a strong ship, too.
Yeah.
Each gene is like a part of the vessel
Yeah, it really gets you thinking about how our genes come together.
to shape who we are.
Right, physically and even in terms of our personalities.
Yes, definitely.
And what's interesting is that the book argues that this self-awareness, this understanding of your own genetic inheritance, it can be a really powerful tool, especially when it comes to navigating those, covert contracts in your relationships.
Oh, interesting.
By understanding your strengths and weaknesses, you can better understand the dynamics at play in your relationship.
So it's not just about understanding your kid's potential, it's about understanding yourself, too.
Exactly.
How all those inherited traits can play out in your own life.
Precisely. From there, the book goes on to explore traditional values like discipline, respect, and hard work.
Okay.
The author argues that these values, while some might see them as old-fashioned, they're actually essential building blocks for success no matter what era you live in.
He uses some interesting examples from history to back that up, right?
He does.
Like Benjamin Franklin.
Yeah, Benjamin Franklin's a great example.
Achieving incredible things through his dedication to those classic virtues.
Right, that relentless pursuit of self-improvement.
Exactly.
He also brings up Seneca, the Roman philosopher,
Oh, yeah.
who, even while facing exile and, personal tragedy, achieved great things through self-control and perseverance.
Wow.
It's like he's saying these values are timeless, and they can help you overcome any obstacle.
It makes you wonder if some of those old-fashioned ideas about hard work and discipline, maybe they still hold true, even in our fast-paced world today.
It's a question the book really wants us to consider. And speaking of timeless values, the author also emphasizes the role of fathers, and in shaping children and passing down these very principles.
Yeah, he really drives home the point that fathers play a vital role,
Absolutely vital.
even highlighting the potential consequences of fatherlessness.
It's a tough but important topic.
He uses some pretty powerful statistics.
Yeah, and real-life examples.
Yeah. To really paint a picture of the challenges faced by children growing up without their dad.
He doesn't sugarcoat it, but he also acknowledges that sometimes life throws curveballs. And even in traditional families, there can be variation. That's where he brings in the important role that grandfathers can play,
Right.
especially when a father isn't present.
It's almost like a safety net, making sure those traditional influences are still there.
Exactly, providing guidance and stability.
Not just financial support either, or discipline, but being emotionally present.
Right, being engaged.
He even suggests some specific activity, like fishing, working on projects together, or even playing video games, as ways for fathers to connect and build those bonds.
I thought it was interesting that he included video games, not something you usually associate with traditional values.
Yeah.
But it shows he's trying to reach modern dads, where they are and offer advice that actually fits their lives.
That's a good point.
And it's not all about the dads either. The book also talks about the crucial roles that mothers and grandmothers play, especially when it comes to a child's emotional development.
Oh, that's important. It's easy to focus on things like, discipline and providing for the family. But the emotional side is huge, too.
Absolutely. The author really emphasizes that deep connection between a mother and her child, especially in those early years. He even highlights some research about kangaroo care,
Okay.
Skin-to-skin contact, and how it can benefit a baby's development.
I've heard of that. Makes sense that that kind of close contact would build a strong bond.
Right, helps the baby feel safe and secure.
Exactly.
Then the book explores the grandmother's role, which he sees as vital for passing down wisdom and tradition and for just offering support during those tough times. It's like they provide another layer of stability and love in the family.
It sounds like he's painting a picture of a family where everyone plays a role in supporting and nurturing the next generation.
It really is a powerful image.
But I'm curious, does the book talk about anything beyond that traditional family structure.
Yeah.
What about people facing more modern challenges?
Absolutely. He spends a lot of time on the hot button issues that families grapple with today. Things like the impact of excessive screen time on kids
Yeah, that's a big one these days.
and the complexities of gender identity.
Those are definitely on a lot of parents' minds these days. I'm interested to hear how he approaches those.
He takes what he calls a balanced approach, acknowledging the challenges but offering advice grounded in those traditional values. For example, with screen time, he's concerned about the potential negative effects on cognitive development and social skills.
Right.
Cites studies that highlight those risks and encourages parents to set healthy boundaries.
That makes sense. It's not about being anti, it's about finding that balance.
Right.
Making sure kids still get plenty of real-world interaction and play.
Exactly. And then on gender identity, he takes a more cautious approach there, acknowledges the complexities and sensitivities, but encourages parents to approach it with careful consideration and to really try to understand the root causes of their child's feelings.
It's about being thoughtful and informed, not just jumping on whatever the latest trend is.
Exactly. He stresses open communication with your children, creating a supportive environment where they feel comfortable expressing themselves, but also encourages parents to think critically and not be afraid to question prevailing narratives.
Right, if something doesn't feel right for their family.
Exactly.
So again, it's about finding that balance, being open-minded, but also holding on to those core values
Yeah.
that you believe in.
Exactly.
Now, you mentioned earlier about understanding your own genetic inheritance. I'm wondering if the book talks about how that plays into choosing a partner.
You're right on track. The book delves into this concept of selective breeding.
Yep.
You know, something humans have been doing with animals and plants for centuries.
Right.
He even suggests that throughout history, we've been unconsciously practicing selective breeding on ourselves
What do you mean?
through our choices of who we partner with and have children with.
So you're saying our ancestors were drawn to partners who had traits they wanted to pass down to their kids.
That's what he's suggesting. And he argues that understanding the principles of selective breeding can help us make more informed choices about who we have children with.
So it's not just about physical attributes, but things like intelligence, temperament, even values.
Precisely. It's about looking beyond that initial attraction.
And considering the bigger picture.
Exactly.
Thinking about the kind of legacy you want to create together.
He argues that by being mindful of our partner's genetic makeup, we can increase the likelihood of passing on those desirable traits to our children.
Makes you think about those old sayings about choosing a partner wisely. It's not just about your own happiness, it's about the future generations you might create together.
That's a powerful thought. And he takes it even further, arguing that maximizing genetic investment in this way isn't just a personal choice, it's a moral imperative.
Wow.
He sees it as a responsibility we have to future generations.
That's a big statement. So, assuming we agree with this idea of being mindful of who we choose as a partner, does the book offer any practical advice on how to actually apply these principles?
He doesn't lay out a step-by-step guide, but he encourages readers to really consider their partner's family history, their strengths and weaknesses, their overall compatibility.
Right, not just romantic love,
Exactly.
but shared values and goals.
Thinking long-term about whether this is someone you can build a strong family with.
Someone who shares your vision for the future.
Precisely. Of course, he acknowledges that even with the best intentions, there's always an element of chance involved, like that genetic lottery we talked about.
Right.
You can stack the deck in your favor, but you can never guarantee a perfect outcome.
Yeah, nature has its own plans. But that doesn't mean we shouldn't try our best to make informed choices.
Yeah.
So we've talked about genetic recombination and selective breeding. But I'm curious what other insights he offers when it comes to maximizing our children's potential.
Well, one thing he emphasizes is the importance of nurturing a winning attitude. He argues that competition is a natural part of the human experience and that it can be a powerful driver of
I
achievement.
know competition sometimes gets a bad rap. You know, people think it's about being cutthroat and putting others down. But I think there's a healthy kind of competition too.
Absolutely. That's exactly what he's getting at. It's about teaching our kids to compete fairly, to push themselves to be their best, but to respect their opponents and the rules of the game.
Like in sports, you can have a fierce rivalry, but there's still that sense of respect and sportsmanship.
That's a great analogy. And speaking of setting goals, he's a big believer in SMART goals.
Oh, yeah.
Specific, measurable, achievable, relevant, and time-bound.
It makes sense. If you have a clear target, you're more likely to stay motivated.
Right. And he believes that teaching kids to set SMART goals helps them develop a sense of purpose and direction, which is crucial for success in any field.
So it's about teaching them to take ownership of their aspirations.
Exactly.
And create a roadmap to get there.
He also emphasizes the importance of developing a growth mindset. You know, that concept from Carol Dweck's work.
Oh yeah, I've heard of that.
Yeah.
It's about believing that your abilities aren't fixed, that you can always learn and grow through effort.
Precisely. He argues that people with a growth mindset are more likely to embrace challenges, to learn from their mistakes, and ultimately achieve more than those with a fixed mindset.
Right. Those who believe their abilities are predetermined.
He uses the example of Michael Phelps, the Olympic swimmer,
Oh, yeah.
diagnosed with ADHD as a child, but went on to become the most decorated Olympian of all time.
It's amazing what you can achieve with the right mindset
Exactly.
and the right support. So we've talked about a winning attitude and a growth mindset. Does the book touch on traditional skills and activities and how they play into maximizing genetic investment?
He makes a strong case for teaching children traditional skills, especially those that have been passed down through generations.
When you say traditional skills, are we talking woodworking for boys and sewing for girls?
He mentions those, but he emphasizes their value regardless of gender.
Okay.
It's about equipping children with a wider range of practical abilities.
So not limiting kids to those traditional gender roles,
Yeah.
but giving them a well-rounded education.
Right, one that includes both practical and intellectual skills.
Makes sense.
He argues that learning these skills helps children develop problem-solving abilities, self-reliance, even creativity.
It's like bridging the gap between generations, passing on those skills that might otherwise be lost.
Exactly.
I'm also curious how the book addresses empathy.
He sees it as a crucial part of raising well-rounded and successful individuals.
Okay.
Empathetic children are more likely to build strong relationships, navigate social situations effectively, even resolve conflicts peacefully.
But empathy isn't really a genetic trait, is it? It's something that's learned.
He acknowledges that.
Yeah.
But he argues that parents can create an environment that fosters empathy.
So modeling empathetic behavior, encouraging open communication,
Exactly.
exposing children to different perspectives.
He believes that by nurturing empathy, we're not just raising kinder, more compassionate people, but also setting them up for success in a world that demands collaboration and understanding.
That makes sense. In today's world, the ability to understand and connect with others is more important than ever. We've covered a lot of ground, from selective breeding to fostering a growth mindset. But I'm curious about the role of nature in all of this.
He's a huge advocate for spending time in nature,
Hold on.
sees it as essential for well-being, physical, mental, and spiritual. He believes that by exposing our children to the natural world, we're giving their genes the opportunity to fully express themselves.
So it's about creating an environment that aligns with our natural inclinations.
Right, an environment where we can
He
thrive.
argues that modern society has become too detached from nature,
Yeah.
and that's had a negative impact.
On our health and happiness.
It's interesting. He even suggests that spending time in nature can help us connect with our ancestors,
Yeah.
tap into their wisdom and resilience.
Like nature is a conduit to our genetic heritage.
And it's not just about big hiking trips or camping. It's about finding ways to incorporate nature into our everyday lives.
Yeah.
Gardening, taking walks in the park,
Absolutely.
even just appreciating the trees and the sky.
Finding ways to bring nature into our homes and communities.
So we've discussed a lot of fascinating ideas, but I'm still wondering how all this translates into practical action. How do we take these concepts and turn them into steps for raising our children?
Well, the book doesn't offer a one-size-fits-all approach, but it does provide a framework for thinking about genetic investment
Okay.
and a range of strategies parents can adapt.
So it's about being mindful of our choices
Exactly.
and recognizing the impact they have on our children's development.
Being proactive in creating an environment that nurtures their potential
Right.
and equips them with the skills and values they need.
It sounds like it's about finding a balance, honoring our genetic heritage, but also adapting to the modern world.
That's a great way to put it. Recognizing the wisdom of the past while embracing the opportunities of the present.
And empowering our children to become the best versions of themselves, not just for themselves, but for the betterment of society.
Absolutely. That's the ultimate goal of maximizing genetic investment, to create a legacy of strong, capable, and compassionate individuals.
Okay, now before we wrap up this part of our deep dive,
Yeah.
there's one more area I want to touch on, and that's the author's perspective on the role of grandparents.
Yes, the grandparent. He has a whole chapter dedicated to their importance, calls them the unsung heroes of the family.
He sees them as playing a crucial role in transmitting wisdom, traditions, and providing emotional support.
That's right, offering a unique perspective that can help children navigate the challenges of modern life.
And he suggests that grandfathers in particular can play an especially important role when the father is absent.
Stepping in to provide that masculine guidance.
Right. The stability that might be lacking.
It's almost like he's saying grandparents are the guardians of the family legacy.
And it's not just about knowledge and values either. It's about that emotional support, unconditional love.
Absolutely. A source of comfort and stability for children, especially during times of stress.
He even talks about the role of grandparents in fostering a love of nature,
Yes, introducing children to the wonders of the natural world.
instilling that sense of wonder and awe.
That connection to nature being essential for well-being.
So it seems like he's really emphasizing those intergenerational connections.
He is. He sees grandparents as an invaluable resource for family, a key to unlocking the potential of the next generation.
All right, so that brings us to the end of this part of our deep dive into maximizing genetic investment. Clearly a book packed with thought-provoking ideas. What are your takeaways so far? What's resonated with you the most? It's been a fascinating discussion. I have to say, I'm starting to see some of these old-fashioned ideas in a whole new light.
It really is amazing how the book connects so many different things. Genetics, family, cultural trends, even personal stories. It's like he's created this roadmap for understanding our place in the world and building a better future.
Yeah, one thing that really hit home for me is that emphasis on understanding our own genetic inheritance. You know that analogy with the ship where each gene is a part?
Yeah.
It's such a powerful image, and it highlights how all these different pieces come together to make us who we are.
It really shows you that our genes aren't just some abstract concept. They have real-world implications for our strengths, weaknesses, talents, even our personality.
Right, and I like that the book isn't deterministic. It's not saying our genes are our destiny.
No, it's more about understanding the hand you've been dealt
Right.
and then making conscious choices to maximize your potential.
And I think that's where the focus on traditional values comes in. It's like he's saying these values provide a framework for making those choices, for navigating life and building a strong foundation.
He definitely sees them as essential for creating stability, resilience, a sense of purpose in a world that can feel chaotic.
He's not afraid to point out what he sees as negative influences either. That term he uses, cultural Marxism,
Yeah.
definitely caught my attention.
It's a provocative term for sure, but I think his underlying concern is something a lot of people can relate to. It's
Yeah.
about the erosion of those core values
Yeah.
that he believes are so important for a healthy.
And he seems particularly concerned about the impact on men. It's like he's saying men have a unique responsibility to uphold those traditional values and resist those pressures that devalue masculinity.
It's a challenging message, but I think it resonates with a lot of men who feel like they've lost their way.
Absolutely.
In a world where traditional roles are constantly being questioned.
And that's where the emphasis on fathers comes in. Like he's saying, men, step up. You have a role to play in shaping the next generation.
Right. He's very clear that fathers are essential
Yeah.
for providing that masculine influence, passing down those time-tested values.
He even says that fatherlessness is one of the biggest issues facing society today.
It's a strong statement.
He doesn't sugarcoat the negative consequences either. Increased poverty, crime, mental health issues.
It's definitely a wake-up call.
But he also talks about the role grandfathers can play, especially when a father isn't around, stepping in to provide that guidance and support,
It's like that safety net, making sure those influences are still there.
even in different family structures.
He even suggests that men without kids of their own can mentor younger guys, share their wisdom and experience. It's about recognizing that fatherhood isn't just biology. It's about being a positive role model.
It's inspiring to think about the impact that can have, but it's not just about the men, right? The book also acknowledges the roles of mothers and grandmothers.
Of course, he dedicates a whole section to the mother-child bond and the impact mothers have on their kids' emotional development.
He even mentions kangaroo care, that skin-to-skin contact.
Right, especially in those early months.
And then he talks about grandmothers,
The keepers of wisdom and tradition.
providing emotional support and that sense of continuity.
He calls them essential for those strong intergenerational connections.
He doesn't shy away from those tougher issues either, like screen time and gender identity.
He approaches them from that traditional perspective, like with screen time, encouraging parents to limit it, prioritize real-world activity, connect kids with nature.
Finding that balance again.
And with gender identity, he encourages parents to be thoughtful, open-minded, but also trust their instincts, not be afraid to question things if they don't feel right.
It's about that balance between acceptance and critical thinking.
Creating a space where kids can explore, but also stay grounded.
So after diving into this book, I'm left with a sense of hope and empowerment. It reminds you that we have more control than we think.
Yeah.
By understanding our genetics, embracing those values, and creating a strong family, we can maximize our kids' potential and build a better future.
It's a call to action for everyone to recognize the importance of family, tradition, and personal responsibility.
If you want to explore these ideas further, you can find Maximizing Genetic Investment, Enhancing the Next Generation's Potential on Amazon Kindle and Google Play Books. It's a thought-provoking read that will challenge you and hopefully inspire you to create a lasting legacy. Thanks for joining us on this deep dive.